What's up everyone, welcome back to another week's video. This week I wanted to run through some common mistakes of why your kayak roll is not working very well, some things to identify and some cues to work on in the future so that you can improve your roll, or if maybe you're teaching someone to roll and you can't figure out kind of what they're doing, or it might be one of these things. I've got a couple video clips to show you and I've tried to over exaggerate the most common flaws that I see in people who are getting their roll, or sometimes getting their roll like maybe 50-50, or they can't do it in white water or whatever. So I've got a few things recorded, wanted to show it to you, and I hope it's going to be useful way that you can look at yourself, look at your own paddling, and also look at others, maybe show other people this video, and it'll be able to help them kind of figure out exactly why their roll is not going perfect every single time. Because the quicker you can get to a perfect roll every single time, the easier it is to make progress in all the other areas of your whitewater kayaking, right? Because you're swimming less at the time, you're less exhausted, you got more energy to really focus on like getting better at kayaking, not just like surviving. Alright, so video clip number 1 coming up. The first most common mistake you're gonna make, see if you can spot it. It should be obvious. Yep, as you can see, obviously my head is coming out of the water first. And as you may or may not know, I assume you know if you're watching this video, you can already roll a bit. Your head has to be the last thing that comes out of the water, because there's a lot of weight in your head and it's kind of very far from your lever position, which is essentially your hips. That's kind of the earlier it comes out of the water, the more it's kind of like counter pulling your boat back upside down. There's a second, like smaller, more nuanced thing here that you maybe didn't notice too. So let's watch it again in slow motion. Now as you can see here, and there's a little bit of a droplet of water, which is unfortunate, but it's not a big deal. You can see that not only does my head come out of the water very, very early, but also it's turned and it's looking up towards the sky. So not only is my head leaving first, but I'm actually twisting it in a point which is making it harder for me to fully engage my lower body and fully engage my core muscles, right? So the way I can fix that, and the way we can progress and kind of fix not only the bigger point of the head coming out first, but also that head turn, we can link those two things together, fix them both at the same time, and that's actually going to make us a lot better going forwards. So the way we're going to fix that, you need to make sure your head comes out of the water last. The easiest way I have found to achieve this is to put your ear onto your shoulder. So in this example, it would be right ear touching right shoulder, and ideally I want to think about looking down, so my eye line is actually going down over my shoulder with my ear still touching my shoulder. And by following this cue, it should actually be fairly easy. It kind of forces your head to stay down there, as long as you're kind of cognizant that you're trying to fix this problem and you're pushing your ear onto your shoulder with your eyes looking directly down into the water. As you're rolling up, you should be looking into the water the whole time, and you'll feel your boat come all the way upright. Once it's upright, then you can sit up and lift your head back out of the water. In terms of what position you finish your roll in, I'm going to probably do a whole nother separate video on that, 'cause it's quite a big topic. But let's just say, to round this point off, we really need to be focused on ear touching shoulder, looking over our shoulder into the water, and that's going to fix that kind of double fault point there that we could see in this clip, and quickly move on. Point number 2. So as you can see in the video there, this is, I would say, one of the most common ones I see, especially in people who get caught unawares, or they get flipped over in a rapid. And if you're not sure exactly what's going on, basically I have tried to rush the setup procedure for my roll, and I've tried to roll with my paddle out of a setup position. Now, way down the line of our kayaking career, it's going to be easier to roll from these like non-setup start positions. But the reason that we learn with that start position is so that whatever way you end up upside down, there's like a million ways you can end up upside down. Whatever way you end up upside down, you need to have that kind of zero reset point that you can always come back to. And that's why we set up in that kind of corked up position, so that your paddle can come all the way to the surface, whether you're rolling with a sweep technique or the C2C technique or some kind of hybrid of those two things. Whatever way, you need to come to that setup position first. Rolling with your paddle like deep down under the water doesn't give you very much leverage, and it makes it hard for your body to really wind up and kind of, if you think about like a spring coiling up, getting to that start position is coiling that spring so that you're ready to unwind your hips and legs and roll your boat back up. So the cue to fix this one in clip number 2 here is actually just to take your time and get all the way into that setup position, okay? You should be able to feel your left hand. I always try and think like thumb up your bum, so really like touching like on the bottom of your boat, like as if you're trying to push through the base of your like the hull of your kayak to where your butt is, and that hand is going to stay there. When that right hand should then come nice and forwards, ideally coming all the way out of the water, as this gives you the most amount of leverage, and it also gives you the extra added bonus of like surface tension on top of the water as you pull down to unwind that hip and leg unwinding twist motion. So the real cue for this one is just take your time. Obviously, I know it can be like overwhelming, especially at first. You're like, oh my god, I'm underwater, this is so crazy. I know that feeling will go away, things will start to slow down, they will start to calm down. That can start with you just saying to yourself, okay, I'm upside down. The next thing I have to do when I'm upside down is go to that setup position, right? And from that setup position, it's just like you practiced in flat water, in a pool, however you learn to roll, wherever you learn to roll, right? But you need to come to that setup position every single time. You can't rush and skip straight to flick your hips and come back up. You ideally need to go to that setup position every time until you have that movement so dialed in and you've done it so many hundreds of times that you can do it from like weird positions, and then you can start practicing rolling up from other positions. But that's again out of the scope of this video, so put that on the docket for another video. Okay, so clip number 3, this is actually another kind of setup orientated one, and it might not be so obvious when you first see it. Let's take a look. Catch that? So let's look again, just in slow motion, and really pay attention to where my setup for my paddle is. Now in this, just for context here, I'm using the C2C method to roll my kayak back up. You can Google C2C, it's how your body should be shaped, kind of like a C shape. If you watch my paddle closely here in the slow motion replay, you can see that I actually go from that nice setup position into that kind of C position where I'm going to roll up, and then I keep winding back further towards the stern of my kayak. And the way I like to think of it is this is actually unwinding. So if you think about, like I was just saying in the last point about winding up like a spring, if you think about this is my paddle and this is my kayak. If you think about this is the start of our wind position and this is like the most potential energy we have. Once you go past that kind of 90-degree point, you're actually starting to lose that energy potential that you had stored up, ready to unwind your core energy, unleash your core energy if you like. And the further it gets, the harder it gets to roll up. Now, just like I was saying in the last point, there'll be a time down the line where you can still roll up in this position and it's absolutely no factor. But if you're watching this and just trying to improve your roll right now and you don't have a ton of rolls under your belt yet, this is something you have to keep in mind. A second thing, and maybe a more nuanced thing that you're seeing here, if you look carefully, is that as I'm unwinding my body, it's also letting my left hand slide off of my boat, so away from that thumb in the bum position. And the further it slides away from that position, then what I'm actually losing is the fulcrum point of my lever. If you think about our paddle is a lever, and the fulcrum point is our hand on the boat. As soon as that's coming away from the boat, there's no way that I have any leverage built up. So not only am I losing that core power, but I'm losing that physical power that I gained from my paddle being a lever to roll my boat up. The way we can resolve this is just to have a little bit more awareness of where that perfect spot is and where that perfect roll up position is. In my opinion, the easiest way to fix that is actually to have somebody else sit by you, like maybe in the water, maybe just in their kayak even, and you say, hey, I can roll most of the time, but I can see I'm having this issue where my paddle's going too far. And the easiest way, I think, is to have someone sit next to you or sit close by you with a paddle in their hand, and as soon as your paddle goes into that correct position, so once you've moved to 90 degrees, have them tap on your boat, and then just stop once you've felt that tap, and think about how your body feels. It should feel like coiled up and torqued up and ready to unwind. So what you need to do is just start to take notes in your brain of how your body feels, and then no matter how you get upside down and no matter what's happening and how crazy the white water is, you'll have that kind of guide of feel. So even if you can't see what's happening, you'll be able to feel how to get back into that position to roll yourself up. So like I said, I think the easiest way is just to have someone kind of watch from an outside perspective. And the other nice thing is, if you mess up here, there's someone who can help you with a T-rescue, which means you can get more repetitions of practice in without having to get out of your kayak every time, which is less tiring, which means you get more reps, which means you can make better progress, assuming you're getting quality reps. So have someone look at your setup and your move into that C position, that like kind of 90-degree paddle position, and just give you a little tap. And that's going to let you know, okay, this is what it should feel like. You do that 10 times, you get 20 times, you get 30 times. You're going to start to get a pretty good feel pretty quickly on how to improve and how to progress and how your body should feel. And now when you try and do it without someone tapping for you, it should be coming easy every time, assuming you've been following some of the other points from earlier on. Okay, fourth and final clip. I don't want to take up too much of your time today, but this is a big one, and it's not always as obvious as you think, and the video here you're going to see is obvious, but actually the same flaw can trip you up even. Let's watch the video first. Catch it? So if you're looking carefully here, you'll see that both of my hands end up on one side of my kayak, right? And as soon as both your hands end up on one side, that's where you're going to go to. There's no way, well, maybe if you've got really good balance, you're going to recover from there, but it's not the optimal position. So as you can see, as my left hand in this example is pushing across, it ends up with both my hands on the right side of my boat, and that's going to pull me back under the water. Now sometimes people can be making the same flaw, and it's a bit less obvious than what you're seeing in this example. Sometimes that left hand just has to cross the midline of my body. So if you think about cutting yourself in half, and then think about, does your left hand finish here? Okay, because that's not even like all the way over there yet, but even just crossing the center line of your body is actually going to have the same effect as if they were both outstretched here and kind of in that Superman position. It's going to pull you back upside down. So as soon as that left hand, or that like non-dominant hand, crosses your midline, it's pretty much game over. And it's not always as simple to see as in this example. And sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes people are like punching as hard as they can. And the way I like to think about fixing it is pretty simple and it's pretty easy. Well, there's two options really. Option number one, think about this left thumb, or right if you're rolling on the other side, but in this video example it's left. Think about this left thumb coming into contact with the outside edge of your life jacket. Keep it tucked into your shoulder nice and tight as you're rolling up, and as you feel it touch your life jacket, stop it. That's it, you just hold it there, you're holding your paddle like this, right? And as soon as it touches there, stop moving. Game on. You should be kind of fixing that problem, assuming your head's down, assuming you've got a nice strong hip snap. That should be it. You should have just solved your roll problem, right? If you're one of those people who does that big aggressive punch across, or maybe you're punching across still but you just can't feel where your life jacket is, another like tip I like to use sometimes is get a big stick. So just in the office example, I'm going to use my phone, but put this stick under that elbow, right? So now when I roll up, I have to keep my left elbow tucked in pretty tight to my arm so that stick's going to stay under there. Now when I roll up, it's forcing me, or it's preventing me from extending my left hand across my body without dropping out from under my armpit there. So another good option to fix your roll, or fix this problem in particular, is put something under that armpit and just have the person who's doing it, or if it's you doing it, just lock it in there and really tight and tense it in so that you are forced to hold it in place. And that's going to make it just kind of more challenging for you to punch that arm across. And again, once you feel the fix and you start getting some quality reps to fix it and like really be cognizant that this is a mistake you're making, it's going to be an easy, quick fix. So nothing to worry about. Just tuck it in, don't cross your midline. You're in for a good time. Okay, so that's been 4 minor, major mistakes that people make whilst rolling their kayak, and things you can look for to improve in yourself and look for to improve in others if you can't figure out why their roll is not working every time, or especially if when you're rolling or at the end of a day where you do many rolls, you're like, oh, my shoulders really hurt. Your shoulders shouldn't hurt at all from rolling. All the power should be coming from your core and from your hips, winding and unwinding. If your shoulders hurt really at all, it means you're pulling a lot more in your arms than you should be. You're using your hips less than you should be. Fix one of the 4 problems. It might be a different problem I haven't addressed yet. This is by no means a comprehensive list of all the things people do wrong when they are rolling their kayaks, but these are like the big 4, I would say. Fix these. If these aren't your problem, write me in the comments below and we'll try and figure it out. There probably is scope for more videos on this topic here of kind of dialing in that perfect roll, if there is such a thing, and I look forward to making more videos on this topic. I hope this has been useful, and I hope I haven't taken up too much of your time with these like slow motion videos of me flopping around. I hope that's been enjoyable for you, and yeah, I will see you in next week's video. Peace.